Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Tech of Opportunity, a behind-the-scene looks at Mongers Actual Play podcast at my cast, my crew, our cast and crew, our content creators that have so graciously contributed to this project. We are 2 years in, 1 year of actual production, several podcasts, and a lot of that is due to the gentleman that I am about to introduce you to now, because when I first got my feet wet, and I'm still learning technical now. I'm trying to learn video. It's getting crazy. And it's just, people just don't have the time to teach me. And I'm trying to be self-taught, but someone steering in the right direction, someone taking 5 minutes here, an hour out of their day there, is a godsend. And one of the first players that I auditioned after some of the guys went on and came back later, my buddies, is Mr. Connor Beish, our censor, as I like to tease him, our technical advisor, and the star lead player in Clinton's Core Classics as Uller Burzum, the half-orc monk, Mr. Connor Beish. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, that's me. That's the guy you described. I think it would be most appropriate for everybody if we address the elephant in the room, and that's that guy, his energy is going to be off the wall. I rarely get more excited than I am right now. So it's going to be interesting seeing the juxtaposition of hyper and bouncy and cold and stoic. And with that, let's begin.
Right. So the first question on Attack of Opportunity that we'd love to ask all of our guests is, what was the defining moment when you decided that you were a geek, a nerd, one of us? Is there something out of your past, your childhood, your present? Was it a game? Was it a video game? Was it a book? What really nailed it to you where you were just grabbed on with both hands and never looked back?
It was pretty hopeless for me. My older brother, was the gamer of the household. He was the one who I imitated and mocked. And I mean, we have VHSs in the house somewhere, me in diapers, getting up and dancing around with the music to the witch's shop in A Link to the Past. If you do any editing, super impose that over it at this point. It's pretty iconic sounding. But I mean, I grew up with video games. There was no hope for me not to be a nerd, and I think I understood that at a young enough age where I definitely embraced it. If something is kind of niche or part of that nerd culture, I usually do go out of my way to say, I'll at least try it. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Now, you're from Texas, but you're currently in Chicago.
From Chicago, and then I've spent most of my life moving from either Texas or Chicago.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of from both.
So
mostly Illinois.
One of the things I like to brag about is that we are an international, sort of the North American continent, because half our crew is Canadian and the other half is proud American. And we all come together and get along great. And we have chemistry. And now we have 2 shows that are well into their first season. And you were actually in the very, very first show. You actually ran and helped me audition people for Mummy's Mask, the original reason why Mongers was created, that we're still trying to get off the ground and turn into a vodcast now. And because of your career, you sort of take a back seat, and we were still throwing around ideas, and you were a big fan of Rise and Rune Lords. And it's actually Connor Beish that talked us into running Rise of Rune Lords when we discovered Clinton, Frank Hamilton's buddy and DM, who knew it. And here we are on Sundays, and we're several episodes in, and we're well into our first season of Clinton's Core Classics. A little bit of raw stuff up on YouTube, but the actual SoundCloud is doing quite well. It's getting its hits, it's getting its plays. And you can email us at rollmongers@gmail.com and talk about your favorite characters, ask us questions, and hopefully they won't give out too much personal information. But today we're talking about the guy that is in bed with ReetonEntertainment.com, a good friend of Nate and Rethan Spruth, who is also in episode 1, has been very helpful. But it's Connor was the guy that introduced me to Nathan, and it's Connor here was the guy that took the time and the patience to teach stupid me some of the basics in the virtual world about the technical side of podcasting, what I needed to know to get me going, taught the man to fish so he can feed himself, as opposed to just feeding the guy a fish and then be coming back every week and hounding you. Which leads me to my next question. Podcasting isn't new to you. This is like a lot of my guys and my crew are brand new to it, and I'm teaching them what you taught me. You and Nathan have been podcasting for a while.
Yeah. So Nathan had more experience than I did. As far as I'm aware, his first podcast was at lucifer.com. They do similar stuff to what Nathan does, just game news and reviews. I actually met Nathan through that service, and mostly just kind of the way that I am. I basically invited myself onto his show back when he was doing it kind of amateur level. Specifically, this was a project called There Be Geeks that we did, and it was very similar to Reading Entertainment. It was exactly what Reading Entertainment was, but it had a whole different crew of people. And I don't want to say drama, but there's a story that is probably best told another time about that. But eventually it evolved from therebegeeks.com to readingentertainment.com. But for all of these services I've named, say for the Lucifer podcast, I have at least one time been a member or been invited to one of their shows. So we've been doing this for years now, at least 4 or 5 years. Geez, I was thinking I was still in high school when we started.
How many episodes do you have on there? About 130, 140?
That I could point to and tangibly be like, hey, I've done this in the 150s. I think we did another 100 before that or so. So, I mean, you think I'd be better now after doing it so long. Geez.
I actually have sort of one of our crew was asking me. We don't have fans yet to ask fan questions so much. So we have a few followers that we desperately cling to and try not to stalk and piss them off. But a crew question for you that I was sort of handed a week ago was your moniker, Cyberpunk Monk, which sounds like too fluid to be true. Is there a history? Is that a personal choice? And in your because I know personally you're actually a big fan of the sort of going from Aeon Flux to Cyberpunk to Blade Runner, like all that futuristic urban cityscape.
Yeah, Shadowrun, basically. That's absolutely my aesthetic. I live and breathe it. That's my favorite, man. Any excuse I can get, like escapism wise, like there are times where I'm looking around at what I could do, and I always just kind of have Deus Ex installed on my hard drive just in case I want to delve. It's so fun. It's great. Did you have a question about that, or the
Cyberpunk Monk, the handle word that?
Oh, right. How did I come up to that? I don't know. Specifically, monk is just something I identify with. I got a poster up there with the Bhava Chakra, and I don't want to turn this into a religious debate either, but I think Closet Buddhist would most closely identify my religious identification.
No, you're spiritual. You're a centered spiritual dude. That's nothing wrong with that, man. And yeah. Like I said, you were playing. We actually asked you to play a monk. You've played them in the past. You're like, nah, but we're like, no, do the monk. We want to see this legendary monk for Clinton's Core Classics, the Rise of the Rune Lords Anniversary Edition podcast that we've got you starring in. And we're like, I pretty much demanded that you play this monk because you were talking about it on and on. So that's the monk part of Cyberpunk, and that's the Cyberpunk part of the monk, and you put them together. And that is your moniker for the Reading Entertainment podcast.com, and you guys talk about video games, what you've played, and what you're into, and sort of current news and events. And there's a dynamic cast that goes with you there, but I've kind of covered a lot of that with Reeton in the earlier episodes. So my next question for you, sir, is where does the technical come from? Why is it that I can ask you these technical questions?
Oh, I've been learning about mostly damaging and taking apart technology since basically I could hold a screwdriver. A fun anecdote that I like to tell is that my mother still doesn't trust me with a screwdriver in her house. This is like 3 years ago. I showed up there for Thanksgiving, and I needed a screwdriver to set up her surround sound, but she wouldn't tell me where she was. She still had to get it for me. Because otherwise, she knows if she leaves me alone in a house with a screwdriver, I'm going to find out how stuff works. And I know this is more of a problem for like 8-year-old Connor, but 24-year-old Connor still is open to being curious.
That's cool. My older brother, actually, Ian, was the same way. He was, soldering motherboards and sticking everything to an actual chunk of wood in the basement, calling it the super radio when we were very, 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 very small. Unfortunately, I could not wrap my head around that type of thing and rely heavily still today when you do have time. But you actually have one of the reasons why I can't I have to grow up and learn this for myself, is because you're so busy with your technical job, working in Chicago and sitting at a computer all day long. And,
Yeah, I work IT for a major spirits company, which, I mean, it's not like I'm putting in a lot of overtime or a gross amount of extra work or what I do, but it is still going to the city. I put in my 40 hours like anyone else. By the time that I show up Friday night and I get ready to do what I guess most people do on their Friday nights, I'm like, yeah, it's 9:30. I'm ready for bed.
Yeah. We were actually lucky to have you cameo because you're a role monger and one of the original role mongers. I insisted that you at least try and do a cameo for our Star Wars Saga Dawn of Defiance campaign podcast we shot first. And right around episode 18, 19, I believe, when they hit the jungle planet Felucia, there was this NPC written in, this leftover Vietnam vet burnt out guy with little information, and he could talk to the natives for the players. And with like very little to go on, we just kind of went, here, this is you. And you ran with it for 2 episodes, and the guys loved it. You even invented the sort of native Felucian race on the spot. This crazy Zoidberg bit with a,
Yeah, the biggest problem with that is I read the notes that you gave me on my cell phone, like in the Skype pop-up, and I scrolled down so I could read the rest of it, and I was like, right, got it. Sat down, went to play, went and opened my phone again, unlocked it, and that little bit that I could see was a part that was like this long, and I was like, oh, hold on, who am I? Who in character?
No, it was great for like what little we fed you, and double checking to see if it was great. They were all of us were either laughing or it was a great time. And even in the game you're in with under Clinton's Core Classics, we still joke how he was the Bail Organa space butler, and on the spot I just made up that part. Somebody's got to greet you at the door. The Major Domo, somebody who works for Senator Organa is like, this is you, I want you space butler. He's like, okay, and he just ran with it, and it's great fun. I love mixing the cast back and forth. But it does come down to availability, and availability to play is difficult enough with a large cast, let alone availability to like hook up later or get together. Which brings us to a next point. A lot of our cast is virtual. We met either online or this type of thing. I do have a couple of friends and buddies that live in my city, and even my future son-in-law is playing. But guys like yourself, Nathan, Clinton, Frank, Aiden, everything are all people we took a chance on and auditioned from Roll20.net, a great gaming site to meet people and come together and play a game, and slowly built the cast from there. And I look forward to the day when we actually possibly have enough money to sort of like fly to a central spot, a convention, and geek out or something, and all meet in person. Because I got to warn you, I'm a huggable guy. I don't know if it's just because we're friendly and Canadian, disarming and stuff, but I'm going to cross over that border. And it's like, I'm going to be crying, just hug you and Frank and everybody when you come off the plane. Aiden's probably already getting a restraining order, set up for me. But I understand that recently you actually met Nathan for the first time. You guys went to a convention together. He was covering the podcast event, and he came out this way and you came out that way. It was recently, I guess it was in the last 6 months.
That is incorrect. I was supposed to go, but I had a wedding. He was like... I did the math. I could have driven down to where he was in like 2 hours, but that week that he showed up, I was over in Michigan, so it didn't work out.
Well, that was a big setup of mine for a story. We've been misinformed.
Here's your next
scriptwriter.
Here's your next challenge, Mr. Jeff. You'll have to edit that out and make the interview still sound seamless.
Nope. Not happening. Nope. Okay. Which brings me to my next problem is I can already see that the video here, the video feed, this is what I'm talking about how helpful you've been is I've just noticed the video feed has gone off sync. Here we go. That's a little better.
Yeah, I noticed that a little earlier. I didn't notice it on myself, so I hope for the best.
I believe I've corrected it now.
Cool.
It can happen on and off. But again, this is a podcast. It is going on SoundCloud and is being spread the RSS feed to Spreaker and a bunch of other places that have graciously accepted us for free. YouTube is our sort of entertainment / advertising and testing ground. So a lot of YouTubers that come across our channel going, well, this is very amateur stuff. It's like, well, yeah, we're learning as we go. And this is where we're putting it up for ourselves to look at and the guys to look at. And, a lot of the stuff we don't have time to do major editing, or we want to learn editing and get feedback. So again, whether you're leaving comments on YouTube, you're leaving comments on SoundCloud, or emailing us at rollmongers@gmail.com, talking about characters, the players, Rollmongers in general, we would gladly accept your feedback, especially if you can tag yourself as, one of our loyal followers. Which brings us to our next question for Mr. Beish. In the foreseeable future, if I could possibly rope you into possibly another cameo for our up-and-coming War for the Crown campaign for Pathfinder Dice Before Dishonor, or perhaps even a cameo, dare I say, if we could possibly get Mummy's Mask, the content creator, vodcast, off the ground. I know the guys would love to see you doing more cameos. Is that a possibility?
Oh, that's absolutely a possibility. If I can't make the cameo, then if you're willing to do the editing, I would certainly at least love to make an appearance after the fact.
Voiceovers.
Yeah,
Voiceovers are the key. Voiceovers are the key. We've been actually offering them to certain people as a sort of a commodity. If I do a whole bunch, I have to be the entire galaxy, and Clinton has to be the entire Pathfinder universe. Now, he's great with his voices, but believe it or not, I would actually, my go-to was D&D, and then second edition Forgotten Realms and all that type of thing. Star Wars, everyone loves it, but I picked up the book just a couple of years ago playing the basement with my son and these guys, so I rely heavily on my rules lawyers, Jay Tamlin and Aidan Willems, who's also in this show.
Jeff, I'm one of your rule lawyers. I know exactly how it feels to be in that situation.
He's our rule lawyer for this show. But to wrap up, I know you got to go. So our final question for you, sir, we hope to see you in the future, is the content that you put up with us, the editing, like the technical aspect, like the coding and everything you do for us or whatever. Mm-hmm. I cannot blame this guy for it. Any screw ups are all on me. He's been showing me stuff, and then I've been screwing it up, and you're coming back and helping me and correcting or whatever. So I guess not so much a question, but thanks for being on the show. Thank you for taking the time. Rollmongers thanks you. I thank you. And we hope to see more of you leading the charge in Clinton's Core Classics.
I think you can all look forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
And I'll dig up that song for you one more time.
Yeah, I'll help you find it. You'll recognize it. You'll have heard it.